All right, let's jump right in with a big question today. Where do medical breakthroughs really come from? Now, I know what you're thinking. It's got to be the lab, right? But what if I told you that a huge part of the answer, well, it lies somewhere else entirely? Let's get into it.
Seriously, think about it. When you picture where a new cure gets its start, what's the very first thing that pops into your head?
Yeah, I'm guessing for most of us it's a lab, right? You're picturing the scientists, the white coats, the microscopes, that big eureka moment. And look, that is absolutely a huge part of the story, but it is so far from the whole thing.
So, what if I told you that an equally powerful force for discovery happens, well, here, in the halls of government, with lawmakers? I know, it sounds kind of unlikely, maybe even a little strange. But trust me, it's an absolutely critical and often totally hidden piece of the puzzle.
See, to really get how science moves forward, we have to look beyond the lab. There is this whole hidden world of progress out there that is just essential for turning a cool discovery into something real, something that actually helps people.
You know, for folks living with diseases like ALS, this isn't just some abstract idea. It is a painful, everyday reality. There's this massive, incredibly frustrating gap between a promising discovery in a lab and a treatment that people can actually get. And that's exactly where our story begins today, right inside that gap.
So how do you close a gap like that? Well, you need what you might call a research accelerator. Just think of it like a hidden engine, something that gives science a massive push, helping it move forward way faster than it ever could on its own.
Okay, so what is this engine? It's something called nonprofit government advocacy. Now hang on, this is not about partisan politics. Not at all. This is about the really focused work of influencing public policy for one single reason: to speed up research. How? By unlocking funding, shaping national priorities, and basically clearing all the roadblocks for innovation.
So you might be asking, why the government? Why focus there? Well, it's pretty simple. They hold all the keys to the kingdom. They control the massive research budgets. We're talking about places like the NIH. They regulate the entire process for clinical trials and drug approvals. Plus, they're the only ones who can coordinate those huge national research projects. Bottom line, government policy literally sets the pace for medical science.
Okay, so we know what this engine is, but how does it actually work? I mean, how does a nonprofit group take the needs of real people, of patients, and turn that into actual, tangible government action? Let's break it down.
It really boils down to these 4 key jobs. First up, they're the ones who bring the patient's voice directly to the people in power. Then, they have to educate policymakers. I mean, these folks are juggling thousands of different issues. Next, and this is huge, they build support from both sides of the aisle. And finally, the big one, they fight to secure the critical funding that makes all the research happen in the first place.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, when you see where nonprofits fit into the whole ecosystem. You've got the government, right? They're bureaucratic, their focus is super broad. Then you have private industry, which is naturally motivated by profit. But then you have the nonprofit advocates. They have one single motivation. They are mission-driven and laser-focused on a specific disease. They're kind of like the glue, the independent voice for patients that connects everyone else back to the real goal.
Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but does it actually lead to results? Let's look at a perfect example of how this engine took advocacy and turned it into real, concrete action.
This right here, this is the ACT for ALS. It was an absolutely landmark piece of legislation, and it only became law for one reason, because the ALS community, spearheaded by advocates, simply refused to take no for an answer. I mean, this was a true hero moment for them.
And the impact? It was immediate and it was powerful. The law created brand new grant programs to fund research and drug development. It set up new ways for patients to get access to promising therapies much sooner. And maybe most important of all, it sent a crystal clear signal to everyone that finding a cure for ALS is an urgent national priority.
And this timeline, it just perfectly shows you that this is a long game. The law passed back in 2021, which was amazing. The programs are up and running right now, but the fight is not over, not by a long shot. You see that? 2026 is a critical renewal year. They have to make sure all this progress doesn't just stop. That engine of advocacy, it has to keep on running, full steam ahead.
And just to show you this wasn't a one-time thing, here's another powerful example. And this one, well, this one might surprise you. A major source of funding for ALS research actually comes from the Department of Defense.
The DoD? Why them? Well, it's because research uncovered a really sobering fact.
Military veterans get diagnosed with ALS at a significantly higher rate than civilians. Advocates saw that connection. They took that data, they made the case to policymakers, and they successfully helped create and expand this unique research program. It's a program that funds some really bold, innovative ideas you might not see in more traditional channels.
So, we've seen the engine, and we've seen the incredible results. But what's the real power source here? What's actually fueling this whole machine? It's not money. It's not political connections. It's the people.
I'm going to read this quote because it just nails the entire point. It says, when policymakers hear directly from people living with ALS, research funding becomes more than a line in a budget. It becomes a human priority. Just let that sink in for a second. And that right there, that is the crucial point. Look, data and charts are important. Of course they are. But they don't create urgency. Personal stories do. When a person who is actually living with ALS, or their husband or their daughter, shares their experience, it completely transforms a dry policy debate into a real human conversation about somebody's life. And that is, without a doubt, the single most powerful tool in all of advocacy.
So let's end on this thought. Science, it gives us these incredible, amazing tools to find cures. But what good are tools if there's no will, no resources to actually use them? So that leaves us with the final big question. Who provides the urgency? And I think we've seen the answer today. It's the community. It's the dedicated advocates who refuse to let anyone anywhere forget what is truly at stake.